Hey guys, welcome back to Semper Fi Mechanic. My name's Thomas. In today's video, I'm going to tell you about how I messed up a car so bad that I ended up hiding in my daughter's room under her bed, waiting on the cops to come and save me. So if you want to use my life as your entertainment, stay tuned because we're starting right now. Hey guys, how you feeling? You feeling good physically? You feeling good mentally? That's good to hear. And if you're not, watch this video and I might make you laugh. But this next story time with old dad, this is going to be a #1 example why you shouldn't be a mobile mechanic if you don't have experience. If you think you can just start a mobile mechanic business and learn everything on the fly, I'm here to tell you, it's not going to happen. So let me set the scene for you. I started my business, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But the issue with me starting my mobile mechanic business was I never had any experience. I never worked in a shop. I never worked in a dealership. And I recently just started becoming a mechanic. The Marine Corps did send me to school, but during the first month or second month of school, I ended up getting medically retired, and that was the end of it. So everything that I've learned is self-taught, which is fine. There's a lot of good and great mechanics that are self-taught. You don't necessarily have to go to school to become a mechanic. Does it help in a lot of ways? Sure. But the #1 thing you need is experience. And that's the one thing I did not have. So obviously I was pretty naive starting this business without any experience. But you got to think, I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18. The only other job I had before that, I was a maintenance man at a place called Splashdown when I was like 16. And then I was a personal trainer when I was 18 for about 6 months. That's the only jobs I ever had. After that, I joined the Marine Corps and spent the rest of my adult life in the Marines. So when I get out, I don't have any experience in any other job except finding bombs and saving lives, which is great. But when you get out here in the real world, there's not a lot of jobs that cater to that. So I was very naive starting this mobile mechanic business. But now when I started, I was only doing brakes and ball joints, maybe putting a starter in, just strictly being a parts changer. Because that I could do. I started getting calls with bigger jobs. People started calling about engine replacements, start calling about transmission replacements, things like that. And I always had to turn them down. And I kind of felt like I was like, oh, I'm a half-assed mechanic. I really need to be able to do all these jobs. I really want to get my name out there as like the best mobile mechanic, or just to be able to build my clientele up. Now, the thing is, when you do some of these jobs, you need to have the right equipment. And I'm a mobile mechanic, right? But I did have a little garage here at my house that I could bring cars in. When there was a little bit bigger jobs, I could bring it here and repair it here at my house. The thing is, I don't have a lift or anything like that at the house. I just have a normal garage like everybody else has. But I didn't want that to stop me from doing these bigger jobs. Because also with the bigger jobs, there was bigger money. At least I thought, it sounds like it. So next time somebody called and said they had a transmission problem, I was like, I'm taking this thing. Lo and behold, a nice friendly guy called and said, hey, how much is it to rebuild a transmission and put it in for me? Well, I look it up and I give him the price and I say, hey, I can do this. Like, my confidence was way up here. I don't know why, because there's a big difference between putting an alternator in and then rebuilding a transmission and putting it in without a lift. But for some reason, I was like, sure, I can knock this out, no big deal. So me and this guy set up a time and stuff, but instead of being mobile, me going to him, I told him he has to bring it over to me, see now it's a bigger job. And he was completely fine with that because my prices was still pretty good. I mean, I was like $500 or $600 cheaper than a shop. I just wanted to take the job. And at this time, remember, I have never, ever rebuilt a transmission or replaced one. Never, ever. So instead of just getting a job to replace the transmission, my first job is actually take it out without a lift, rebuild it, put it back in without a lift. My first time ever. Does that sound smart? No, it doesn't. But I'm like, okay, sir, go ahead and drop it off. He brings it in, and I forget what year, but it was an old Cutlass. This car weighed 10,000 pounds, it seemed like. He pulls it in, drops it off. I said, hey, give me about a week. Everything will be good. I didn't pay half up front, half in the back end. Normal business like that, everything was fine. Well, he pulls it in, and that's when I realized my first problem. I'm like, how the hell am I going to get my fat ass underneath this car and raise it up high enough so I can drop the transmission? My bright idea is, oh, my neighbor's got some tree stumps that he pulled up. So let me go over there. So I go over to my neighbor, Butch. Hey, Butch, let me get these tree stumps from you for a few minutes. So here I am carrying tree stumps back over. So I jacked the car up high enough, and I put it on tree stumps. I'll stop. For everyone out there thinking, yes, I am a hillbilly. This is some hillbilly shit. You are correct. All right, now remember, I told the guy 5 days, right? Well, now let's fast forward 24 days later. Here I am 2 weeks past the due date. The gentleman's been here 3 times starting to whip my ass. He's called me 30 times, saying I've ripped him off. He just wants his car back together. I mean, it's a complete fucking shit show right now. Anyway, I've got the transmission out. I've watched some YouTube videos. I've got it rebuilt. I think I've got all the parts like I'm supposed to. My confidence is very low at this point because I have no idea if it's worked. Well, I get it back in, and he comes and gets the vehicle. In my driveway, the first thing he does, he pulls the transmission dipstick out and checks it. Guess what? No fluid at all. I didn't even put transmission fluid back in the vehicle after I replaced it. You could just see it in his face. He's just like, oh my God. So I'm like, all right, I'm sorry. I was just rushing, trying to get everything back together. That's the very last step I had to do. Sorry about that. He's like, just put the fucking fluid in it so I can go. Like, and he's pissed. And I get it. I look over, my wife standing with her arms crossed, just shaking her head, just like in disgust, like, oh, you embarrass me. You know, I had my head down like, I know. Like I was a beat little puppy. So anyway, I grabbed the transmission fluid. The guy's standing 5 feet away from me. I start pouring it in. There's 1 quart. There's 2 quarts. 3 quarts. I'm like, all right, should be getting filled up. And I keep putting it in. I'm like, damn, I put like 15 quarts now. I'm like, oh, something ain't right. He's not really paying attention to me. And I'm like, all right, go ahead and check it. He puts it back in there, the dipstick, pulls it back out, completely empty. And then he's like, what the hell? And looks down. And I didn't even put the gasket back on when I was putting the transmission pan back on. 15 fucking quarts all the way down to my driveway. It looked like the Red Sea. I mean, it was bad. So now at this time, shit is going crazy. This dude is so pissed off. He looks at me and says, I'm leaving and I'm coming back tomorrow with my 2 nephews. If this car is not finished, I'm going to whip your ass. I'm still trying to remain professional, but I'm like, no, sir, I'll have it taken care of. I'm sorry. Remember, I just started my business. I was maybe like 2 months in at this time. So he leaves and I have to go back, fix the car, put the gasket in, do all that. I put the fluid back in, check it, everything's good to go, right? I do a test drive. I drive it down to the church, which is maybe half a mile down the road and back. Everything's fine. I call the guy and I'm like, hey, you can come get your vehicle. Everything is good to go. And he just hangs up on me. Don't even say anything. So the next day he comes here and I'm feeling pretty good though because I finally got it to drive. But when he does pull in, he wasn't bluffing. Man's about 60 years old. So when he got out his 2 nephews, or if they was the offensive tackles for the Cleveland Browns, because these boys was huge. Physically, you know, I can take care of myself. I think I'm okay there. But once they showed up, I had no more confidence. That last little bit of confidence I had was gone. I was like, man, if I get my ass beat in front of my family, like, oh man, she's going to divorce me. Like, that's the only thing I really got going for me is I can pay for the house and car and I can protect her from people. That's all I got going. So if I lose that, she's gone. So I'm like, all right, here you go, sir. I hand him the keys. He just gets in the car, and I wasn't even going to say shit about payment at this time. I just want him out of here. So me and my wife are watching him drive away, and I'm like, oh, thank God. So I turn around to start walking in. Next thing you know, I hear this loud noise. Bam! And I hear scraping. We look up and something fell off the bottom of his car and is dragging. And to me, it looks like the fucking transmission. So I'm like, run! We jump in the house, lock the door. I grab my gun, shut the curtains, and I said, call the police. So the police actually come out. Like, I'm this scared. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna lose my life today. Thank God this guy and his Cleveland Brown nephews didn't come back. As the cops are sitting here comes the tow truck. He called the tow truck to come and get this car. And I never heard from this guy again. But I tell you what, to this day, 4 or 5 years later, anytime I see a Cutlass like that, I still get a knot in my stomach because I'm thinking, oh man, they're coming for me. I swear. For me, almost losing my life that day, can you at least give me a thumbs up? And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Just press it. Just press subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Just push it. Now, something that does cost you money, if you want to donate to this channel, I'll have my CASHAPP and VENMO up on the screen. All money goes back into the channel to get audio equipment, new video equipment. Mostly it goes back to my mobile mechanic business. Getting new parts, get my truck fully prepared to get back on the road so I can give you good advice and show you how to actually fix things like my channel's supposed to be, instead of telling you about the times I fail. But if not, I love you anyway. And like I always say, Semper Fi till next time.